Thank you. Next one is Adeline Decuyper. If you think that finding a good data scientist is difficult, finding a female good data scientist, that's really very rare.
I have pressure. All right, hi. So my name is Adeline Decuyper, and today I'd like to talk to you about a case study of monitoring food security in Africa using mobile phone data. So I'm from UCL, but this was a collaboration with the Real Impact Analytics and the UN Global Post team from New York. So the main question that we wanted to answer in this project was, can we map food security using mobile phone data? So as you know, mobile phone data is quite easy to get. It's not costly or time-consuming. It's recorded for billing purposes by every provider, every hour of every day of every week. However, food security data is usually gathered through costly and time-consuming surveys by the World Food Programme that are conducted on-site every 2 or 3 years. So if we could provide up-to-date information on food security indicators from mobile phone data, this would be very useful. All right, so the mobile phone data that we had access to was composed of CDRs, which we already talked about a few minutes ago. So those record for every call a caller and callee ID and a point in space and time where the call was made. In addition to that, we were very lucky to have information on financial transactions. So which user topped up both how much airtime credit for their phone and at what time. So this was very interesting information on financial status of people, and we had this information for about 2 million users in one African country for 7 months of data recorded in 2012. So we put this data in relationship with what we considered the ground truth data on food security, which was gathered through a survey conducted by the World Food Programme, which was also conducted in 2012, which was very lucky for us. So this survey, we had access to all answers that the household answered relating to household characteristics, food consumption, and also monetary questions such as how much money do you spend on food every month. All right, so the first thing that we did with these data was to aggregate them geographically. So we first tried to have, for each administrative unit of the country, one set of mobile phone variables that we could put in relationship with one set of food security indicators. So after that, we analyzed this relationship. So we computed a massive correlation matrix, of which I will only present one line today. And the thing that I will present is the relationship with the mobile phone variable, which is the sum of top-ups per user. So as you see, some of the variables, the food security indicators, correlate very high, which are denoted by the dark red line, and the ones that are white indicate no correlation. So the thing that I will explore first is the food consumption variables. So these variables all relate to questions asking how many times per week do you eat this type of food. So it can be carrots, it can be bread, cereals, you name it. All right, so some of them correlate very, very high, such as, for example, carrots. So if you know how much people spend on their phones in a certain area in Africa, you can actually predict how many times they eat carrots every week, which is, well, okay, it can seem as a joke, but it also works with bread, it works with cereals. It does not, however, work for maize or cassava. So we wondered, was there a rule to which types of food we could predict and which we couldn't? It turns out there actually is. So the types of food that we can predict are the ones that are mostly bought on the market in these regions, and these ones we can predict with quite good accuracy. The types of food that we cannot predict with mobile phone expenditure are, well, of course, the ones that are mostly cultivated in those regions, and then people cultivate them for their own consumption. So this was very interesting information for the World Food Programme, because we could actually try to get this information and up-to-date information on food security. All right, so one more example of something that I wanted to share today was other variables that did correlate quite high and we could predict were the expenses on several types of things, such as, for example, the expenses on food. The expenses, if you know how much money people spend on their phones in a certain region in Africa, you can predict how much they will spend on food. And this gives you a good image of how food secure these regions are. So this was very interesting for the World Food Programme, and they would like to take it to the next level, which would be to monitor food stocks over time and try to get a real-time proxy and use that as early warning of a changing situation in certain regions. Right, so this was one example of what mobile phone data can do for development, and I very much hope that in the future we'll be able to fight hunger with big data. Thank you very much.